Let's go to the female side now. And it was kind of like a rock situation, Vince, where for the last month, Becky Lynch is going to be there on the launch on Netflix. She's a no-show. And then we know Charlotte Flair is coming back. No Becky Lynch. Charlotte Flair comes in. She got her grand entrance. They all stopped. Here she comes looking like $1,000,000. She ends up getting the victory. It's a very safe play. But when you're a women's division that lacks severely star power, to me, you had to have Charlotte Flair win it. What was your take?
Man, Coach, I've got to tell you, they've got problems, and I hope they recognize these issues. Coach, this was I know they have preliminary matches. I know that. This was the first official match of the Royal Rumble. And Coach, they're counting down the crowd. They're getting everybody hyped up, everybody excited. 66,000 people strong. Coach, I thought for a second, I really did. I'm like, is there a problem with the audio? They were not responding to any of these women, Coach. Coach, the only people they were responding to were the legends and Charlotte, who came back, and Alexa Bliss, who all the other women, they were not responding at all. I'm talking about you could hear a pin drop. And man, and I'm watching this and I'm like, man, I thought nobody was over, but like now I know nobody's over. And listen, guys, if Vince is being bitter, this and that, no, man, go back and watch the responses of the Women's Royal Rumble to that of the men's. Just go back. I mean, Coach, I could not believe the lack of response to some of these women.
I have been very, very open about my opinion about the women's division. The tough part is when you do these shows, if you criticize the women in any way, shape, or form, now you're misogynistic, you're all this. No, we look at it subjectively. And I felt the exact, and you and I, and we did this on purpose. I didn't want to talk to you during the Royal Rumble. I wanted to get your perspective and you wanted to get mine. And the way that, let's say, the woman who won last year, Bayley, she was a non-factor in this one after 2 straight weeks saying, hey, I'm going to beat you, Rhea Ripley. Hey, I'm going to go out there and win 2 in a row.
And she got a non-response. Bayley, I mean, I'm thinking of all people, bro, they didn't pop for Bayley.
The biggest pop I thought was Alexa Bliss.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And the other problem is that Alexa Bliss came out. Is she in good shape? Yes. But her, Zelina Vega, they're so tiny, Vince. When you have them in there and you want to make it believable, and you teach us all the time, reality-based. Is there a universe where an Alexa Bliss would be able to eliminate somebody like a Nia Jax? No, that would never happen. And then you've got a Bianca Belair, and I feel horrible for her. She's been saddled with Jade for the last year. She comes out, and the crowd could have cared less. Then her tag team champion partner, Naomi, comes out, and it was crickets. I mean, crickets.
And Coach, and when you're talking about crickets, let's go one step lower. They didn't know who any of those NXT girls were. They didn't know who any, and which was a real weird choice of Perez. The
last 3 or 4, right?
Last 2. Charlotte eliminated her to win the Rumble. I'm like, what was that?
I think what they were trying to do is put one person over from NXT. That's what they were trying to do. And I think, and this also goes back, and we got a super sticker from Jude. I think this will play into it a little bit. Then I want to get your reaction. He says, Jay and Charlotte going over was a message for Triple H saying, this is my show now. Question to both, is Cena's heel turn the way to go? We'll get to that heel turn, but I want to address the Triple H part of that super sticker. That Triple H was always an NXT guy. Vince hated NXT because it wasn't his idea. And so I think last night having all of those girls and Jordan Grace coming over from TNA was Triple H getting in his own head about how popular he thinks the NXT stars are. They're just not right now. They're on the C-Dub. They're not on Netflix or on USA. Would you agree with that?
Well, Coach, here's why I agree, because here's something very interesting. You know, guys, again, go back and look at the Rumble if you think what I'm saying is not true. There were no response to any of the NXT girls. None of them. Zero. Coach, Joe Hendry got a response. A TNA guy got a response. Jordan Gracie, a TNA performer, got a response. They knew who they were, but yet they did not know who these NXT women were.
It's also, I think it was really well spotlighted. Joe Hendry, who we had on The Last Word, was live on Stadium on Monday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern time. We had him on 2 weeks ago, the night after he won the World Championship. This is what we talk about, guys, when we're saying these superstars, they need to lift up their own brands. They can't let the WWE 100% be responsible for it. Joe Hendry took his career into his own hands and utilized social media, music. He's been around for 15 years.
Yeah.
And he feels like a fresh superstar because of how he is arrogant in a good way. The crowd has something they can buy into. When he came out, man, they knew the music. They knew what he was doing. He looked great. He's got the hair and the whole deal. And the NXT stars. But then, Vince, you know how it is backstage. If you're an NXT star, and by the way, you're going to see more of it. They announced a new show called Evolve that's going to be on Tubi or something. And it's going to be like super, super green stars that are going to have the opportunity. It's kind of like Tough Enough. And I'm like, so we're going to have a fourth show on national television, and it's going to be green as grass superstars, but they're scared to death of speaking up, scared to death of saying to Shawn Michaels or any of these other agents down there, this is what I think I should be doing. It's almost a better avenue to do what Joe Hendry did than it is to get signed by Evolve or NXT, because you don't have a voice, and then that happens when they bring you out. Crickets all day long.
Yeah, and hey, listen, Coach, NXT is a factory, and they're making and producing wrestlers that are exchangeable with one another, and that's what it's coming across. All these women, I mean, coaches, I'm watching. I don't watch NXT, so as I'm watching all these NXT women come out, not one of them is jumping off the page at me. Now, when Jordan Gracie comes out, okay, this is somebody. This girl will hurt you. She is a freak. She's athletic. She's a somebody. But when they paraded out that NXT champion, what was her name?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I'm like,
you're asking the wrong guy.
There's not, again, we talked about the it factor. It's not there, Coach. It's just not there.
I feel like that if I'm Becky Lynch, that she is trying to be strategic, and they just came out and they said that her and her husband, Seth Rollins, or boyfriend, whatever they are, have signed with Adventure Media. They have these new agents. She's in the Star Trek show now, and apparently she's doing another movie. But I also feel like this is strategic, because if I'm Becky Lynch, and maybe the executives at TKO don't give a damn, because we know what they've done with the UFC and we know what they've done with the WWE. But if you're talking about star power and I'm Becky Lynch and they won't give me what I want, I'm sitting there back watching that Royal Rumble match going, this is the best thing that could have happened to me.
I agree.
They need me.
I agree.
Right? They desperately need her to somehow get into the mix by Elimination Chamber. And why don't we have Becky and Charlotte at WrestleMania? Why can we not do that? The two biggest stars, perhaps of all time, and they can control that because they control the narrative and they control the storytelling.
Yeah.
But to not have Becky Lynch, what do you think is the biggest issue behind the scenes to advertise her, but then she doesn't show up for any of it this month?
The only thing I was thinking, Coach, is maybe they felt they needed to hold her off till WrestleMania. Maybe they felt that's the only thing I could make sense out of. That's the only thing I could make sense out of. And, it's funny, man, because there were a lot of people beefing about, Charlotte winning this. Who in that ring is better than Charlotte? That's a no-brainer. There's nobody in that ring that can touch her. And you're going to put somebody else over? nah, man, that was the right call putting her over.
100%. And if I could give Nia Jax, not that her and I have ever gotten along, not that I like her character or anything, this would be the time. They try to book her as the dominant force in the women's division, but all she knows how to do is laugh and go, "Oh, you can't." How about you become an absolute killer? How about there's no more laughing?
Yeah.
How about you get rid of somebody and you point at him and you say, "Another one, another one, another one." But it's the same thing for years and years and years. "Oh, you're too small. I don't feel you." How about they create this absolute monster? But they don't seem to want to do that, or she can't pull it off.
Yeah.
But they to I know what they were trying to do with Jordan Grace. I agree with you. I think she could be a somebody. She's a little bit later in her career, even though she's getting here at this time. So they've got to do something quick, in my opinion. But Nia Jax is no longer believable to me as a monster if you're going to continue to do the "oh shucks, you're too small" thing.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, I worked with Awesome Kong, and they're the same size, but she was feared. I mean, she was the monster that you're talking about. Nia Jax is more of a valley girl, than a monster. And just one other thing about that Rumble, Coach. That kabuki-ish finish with everybody on the ring apron, that was horrible. Absolutely horrible, not believable, sloppy. That was not good.
I think you really saw the difference in talent level from the men's to the women's. When you put together a match, it's got to come off like these are absolute pros, that they've been there, and the timing has got to be spot on. You can't be looking through the side eye to go, all right, are they doing it? You just got to know. And the men, they absolutely did that. So congratulations to Jey Uso, Charlotte Flair for winning the Royal Rumble. They will both go on to main event WrestleMania. All right, we're about halfway home. This is the Coach and Bro Show. We are live every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the BTT YouTube channel. You can also catch us on demand if you don't catch us live. Brand new sponsor today, Mando at shopmando.com. Here's what we're talking about. Your starter pack. Get in very, very easy. Now, this is what it is. You got your deodorant stick, or you have your deodorant in the tube. But then you get two other items and that you're choosing. I chose the bourbon leather because Vince is a bourbon leather guy. And then you see us both with these deodorant wipes. Use the code EXPLODES. You're going to get $5 off. That's the equivalent of 40% off your starter pack. Try it out. And then I promise you want to use this. And also, Vince, because they love me more than they love you.
I didn't get the soap. I don't have soap.
Hey,
where's my soap?
I'm a star. I'm a star. I'll make sure you get your own soap there, but it smells amazing.
And the code is explode. The code's explodes, right?
Explodes. EXPLODES.
Yes.
ODES. By the way, what do we see right there? So we'll get back to the Cena super sticker, but we just had our biggest super sticker we've ever had, Vince. So we got to read it right here, right now. I promise you we'll get to that Cena heel turn in a moment. But here is Ronnie, a $50 super sticker, Vince. Let's go. He says, Jey Uso has negative aura. Saying oos and yeet more times than Vince says bro isn't a gimmick. And he uses catchphrase charisma to make up for his lack of authentic swag. Just feels off.
That's interesting.
It's an interesting take, Ronnie. Thank you very much for that. Last week, when his entrance was longer than his promo, that spoke volumes to me. And if I'm Jey Uso and I want to stay at that level, Vince, I'm working in the mirror every single day. He's got to be able to cut promos against these guys to make them believe he's on their level. I've said it for years. If you can't talk, you cannot get over. He's definitely over, but he wants to maintain that main event over, right?
Yes. Coach, can we bring up one more thing?
Yes.
And to me, this was perhaps the worst thing of the night.
What?
Coach, the downtime between these matches is freaking ridiculous. ridiculous,
Oh
Coach.
my
It
gosh.
is I can't imagine watching a baseball game and it's 15, 20 minutes between innings. Coach, it's ridiculous. The downtime of you're just sitting there waiting for the next every package, everything they could throw in there. Coach, can you explain something to me?
Please.
Why are we doing that with this unbearable downtime between matches rather than just add another match or two? Why are we doing this?
Because this has always been the issue, is the production value is so good, and it is. They've got incredible producers, incredible editors, and they want to show that. For some reason, they live in this world, Vince. They had a 2-hour pre-show. So the crowd that was in the arena in Indianapolis, they were exhausted. There's a reason we didn't do a live watch along. I made that call, and I said, oh, absolutely not, because that'd have been 2 hours, and then the night lasted over 4 hours. I tweeted that the tag team match, you saw people walking to get snacks, and I felt bad for the machine gun guys and the 4 guys that was in there. It was a 2 out of 3 falls. It was a 2 out of 3 falls. And I was like, oh my God, we just watched. And they said, Coach, it wasn't over an hour. I said, guys, it was an hour and 40 minutes from the first entrance in the women's match until they crowned Charlotte the champion. An hour and 40 minutes. And then you still had Cody, KO, and then a 2-hour men's Rumble match. That's all you needed was those 2 matches and KO and Cody. I think right now people need to understand that just giving Peacock or just giving Netflix more is not better. Sometimes less is more.
Less is more. I can't tell you how many times I heard Vince McMahon say less is more.
It's incredible. And now we're adding a 4th show, so there's going to be a minimum. So we've got 3 hours on Netflix, 3 hours on SmackDown, 2 hours on NXT, and probably an hour or 2 on Evolve. So we're talking almost 10 hours when you've got a shortage of talent, especially on the women's side. And so now you're going to have 2-3 segment matches. Come on. It's just because the numbers are huge as far as the dollars, Vince, doesn't mean that's how you get people over or get the matches over. They've got to really think about that and all get into a room and say, guys, let's recalibrate here. Let's recalibrate here. Let's get to the Cena thing right now, and then we'll end with Cody and KO because I know we had a super sticker, and I want to reward that. So Cena is the second. He makes it to the final 2. And then we saw something from him, Vince, that we've never seen before at a press conference. Normally, he's the, hey, Chris Van Vliet, hey, great to see you. What a night. It's nice to be back once every couple of months. That's not the Cena we got. It's evident to me that he is saying, I'm going to be serious. I want to have levels to my game. He took that opportunity to say he's going to be in the Elimination Chamber match coming up at their final pay-per-view before the Wrestlemania. But then Vince, and this is where some hardcore fans have an issue with him, he then said, I've got to go shoot a movie in Hungary or whatever country it is. So I'm going to give the other 5 guys an opportunity to get ready, and I'm going to come back, but I'm coming to win. I used to travel with John Cena, and I've wrestled him twice in tables matches. I love this man as a human being. He's at his core a great human being. But what I saw right there might have been the most real John Cena that I've ever seen. What is your take after watching that?
Well, man, Coach, that's awesome that you had that opportunity because I never had that opportunity. And I have always said there are 2 people, I swear, just 2 people I wish I would have had the opportunity to work with, and I didn't. John Cena and Bray Wyatt. That's it.
Wow.
I say that all the time. And here's why I say, because Cena is a pro. Cena has been a pro since day one. I don't care whether you boo him, cheer him. He's a movie star, but I could care less. This man is a pro. And I remember, Coach, I'm going to go back. They had Austin Theory beat John Cena. Really? And what has Austin Theory done? You literally beat Cena, tarnished his legacy for no reason whatsoever. You did nothing with Austin Theory. So if that's sitting that way with me, I wonder how that's sitting with John Cena, because he did exactly what you wanted him to do. And in John Cena's own words, that was not what's best for business. And I said at the beginning of this show, when it comes to casuals is business. What is best for business is John Cena being in the main event at WrestleMania. That is best for business. Coach, what's best for business is CM Punk being in a main event at WrestleMania. CM Punk is not a young man. CM Punk is injury prone. CM Punk has never been in a main event at WrestleMania. So you've got two guys right now that desperately need to be in a main event at WrestleMania. I don't know how they're gonna play that out, to be honest with you. But man, that Cena promo was very, very, very strong. And if he's working, bro, he needs to be up for an Academy Award this year.
There's no doubt about it. It is, and to answer the super sticker question, I don't know if this is Cena turning into a heel.
I don't think so.
As it's so much that Cena has realized. And when you start to look at mortality, and I say mortality in the wrestling business way, he's not going to be a guy like others, like a Ric Flair, who has continued to have, Ric Flair had 5 retirement matches, and he's been very open about why he had to continue, why he kept going. John Cena has been one of the very few that's been able to make it outside of the wrestling business and come and go. And that's okay. That's okay. Rock's done it. Logan Paul does it. And I think if you have enough star power, you can do it too. But for Cena, this is it. I don't think you're going to see him come back year after, let me come back. He might make appearances, shaking hands and babies. But I think right now what we saw was a person who has given his blood, sweat, and tears. We're talking about a man, Vince, that one time on a 10-day tour to Europe, Ric Flair convinced him that you're the world heavyweight champion, so you got to be at the bar every single night, pay for it. Not only did he do that, but he was the first person on the bus in the morning to the gym hungover because he wanted to be the greatest pro that he could be. That's who John Cena is. And I think now he's looking at his mortality and saying, listen, I know I haven't been full-time for many years, but this is it. And when you've done 23, Vince, I was there day one. I started in 1999. I was 23 years old. And I was there when John Cena walked in the door as the prototype. And he tried everything. It is hard to watch, but it's also part of what we all go through is what's the ending? What am I doing afterwards? And that's serious John Cena right there. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys backstage are like, why does he get a shot in the Elimination Chamber? Because that's what all wrestlers do. He's taken my spot. He hasn't earned it. I'm here every single week, which is a bunch of BS. He has star power, and he has a storyline that fans will buy into. You said it. He's one of the very few that can bring in the casual fan. So if they write it correctly, maybe you can bring in the casual fan, Vince, for the Elimination Chamber to try to figure out, will it be CM Punk or will it be John Cena? And Vince, can you imagine being in that room trying to convince either guy they're not going over?
Yeah, man, it's they've you hear the expression a lot, backing yourself in a corner, and they really have with these two guys, because I'm telling you, the thing with Punk is he has his entire story, his entire career has been, I've never headlined a WrestleMania. He's getting older. He's injury prone. Coach, I don't know if this time next year CM Punk is a part of that roster. I don't know. I would say no. So you've got to put him in a main event at WrestleMania probably this year.
So you got two nights to do it. So we already know that technically the main event, Vince, for one night has to be Jey Uso and Gunther. Right, at least as of right now. And so there's only one other main event spot left. And that's it's not going to be CM Punk against John Cena. It's going to be Cody Rhodes against one of those two guys. So I'm going to be very, very interested to see what they decide to do. But I love having you a part of this show because you've been there and you've done it and you've written for these. This is a very difficult, delicate place to be. when you got these two legendary guys that won't be around for a very, very long time, and you're trying to decide what do we do with them and how do we reward them the best. It's a hard place to be.
Well, you know, Coach, here's the thing that I was always faced with, and it's probably why I got a lot of heat in the business, which is fine. Everybody thinks they're the top guy. Yep. Everybody thinks they should be booked as the champion. There's a problem with that, Coach. There's only one or two top guys. Not everybody can be a top guy. But if I'm looking at this situation and I'm looking at what is before me, you got to get Punk in the main event. You got to get Cena in the main event. Jey Uso did not need to be in the main event at this time. He did not need to be at the main event this time. He had time to be in the main event. He did not need to be in it at this time. So I would have booked this completely differently, where I still would have given, Jey his, due. Yes, he does deserve to be in a WrestleMania. He should be in a WrestleMania main event, but I don't know if this year should have been it when you've got these two guys.
Very, very, very good take. We do have a super sticker take from Ringside. He says, what a day, gentlemen. Royal Rumble overview. Underwhelming. Zero surprises. Alexa Bliss, pop of the night. We agreed with that. Thanks, guys. What a day. We have a huge live audience, by the way, right now. And we have people watching from as far away as Bolivia. I wonder what they thought about the Royal Rumble in Bolivia, Vince, of all places. I think that was kind of the overwhelming sentiment. But I want to close. We mentioned Cody Rhodes. And I thought he and Kevin Owens physically put everything they could into that match. Unfortunately, when you have a ladder match, not everything is going to go the right way. And I don't know the extent of the injury, but Cody was so injured that he was unable to make it to the press conference. And we know he's the All-American boy. Yeah. He is Mr. So for him not to go to the press conference, it had to be pretty serious. And then KO, I'm assuming that he was selling. That was one of the greatest sell jobs when he took that power bomb through the ladder, and his body was almost like over the top with himself. I thought I tipped my cap to the physicality of that ladder match, because they're two different styles, and Cody is just that guy that's always out there. You don't think of him being a hardcore, nasty guy, but man, I really enjoyed that ladder match. Did you?
I enjoyed it, Coach. They worked their butts off. There's no question about that. But man, I get so disappointed as a writer when they just miss opportunities. And there was a great opportunity here at the end of the match that they missed. When you've got Sami Zayn over a beaten and battered friend, a lifelong friend, the best man at my wedding, the history of these two guys, and Kevin Owens is near death, and he's beaten, and he's broken, and he's bloodied. And Sami, now the real emotion comes out. We've had our differences, but at the end of the day, we're brothers. And now I'm concerned about your well-being and your welfare. And you got Cody on that table cutting that promo. Bro, Sammy's got to get up and get in his face. That's what any friend would do. That's what
but not get physical, right?
Not get physical, but okay. and F you, man. Can you not see that? They gotta they Coach, when you're in this bubble, you miss these real emotions. Yep. And if this is your brother, and this guy is standing at the table gloating, pointing down at you, brother, you've got to say something out of raw emotion. And these are the little real things that they just constantly miss. Because if Sami would have done that, that would have been real interesting come Monday night.
I think the one thing that, and I don't know who can tell them to do this, and I don't know if there's anybody backstage that's not just looking out for their own careers, to be honest with you. But the thing that I respect about you the most is when you're a writer, and this is how I think now. I'm big on details, and details matter. And that detail that you just described could have been used in a package down the road for whatever they were going to do with Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, whatever the case might be. That would have been a great spot that you can't not reinvent. You can't make that up. You can't put 70,000 people back in the arena and say, hey, let's go out and film Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes. So in real time, and that's what I want people at home to understand, in real time, that's the art at this level of storytelling at its best. And even the best don't always hit the mark. And I thought that would have been an amazing, amazing moment.
Coach, I will never forget this because they could have cut to the chase years earlier. Years earlier. I'll never forget this. And I think it was 10 years ago because they said the date on the Royal Rumble when, you know, they were pushing Roman Reigns as a babyface and they were pushing him down everybody's throat. And he won the Rumble, and they even had The Rock there to try to get Roman Reigns over. They had The Rock there to endorse him, and they're in Philly, and Roman Reigns goes up to that top rope after winning the Rumble, and they're booing him out of the building. If I was there and I was at the gorilla position, man, I would have made the decision right then and there. Tell Roman to flip off the crowd. Let me tell you why. Because any person in that situation would have done that. Any person would have done that. This whole place wants to boo me out of the building. You know, F you. Coach, he would have been a heel the next night. But rather than, no, we're going to keep him as a babyface. Then it takes them 2 years to figure out, bro, he's never going to be a babyface, so let's just make him a heel. You can't. Moments like that are few and far between, Coach. You can't ignore them because that's where the best stories come, Coach.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it just brought up something that I haven't heard anybody talk about. Two guys in the last month that have had tons of TV time, that one of them has had many Royal Rumble match moments, weren't even in the match. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Wow.
Think about two guys together. Two guys together. The last month, tons of TV time. She's talking about turning heel on a dime.
Oh, A New Day.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
How are they not in the Royal Rumble match? You could have done so much with them. They've had promos with a ton of guys backstage. You know, and they could have been in the heel role in that match.
And it's funny that you say that, Coach, because if you really go back and look, it was 2 Royal Rumbles. The first 15 guys didn't matter. The last 15 guys was like who's who, like one right on top of the other. It was really 2 different stories. But again, you know, see, Coach, when I look at something like that doesn't make any sense, my only logical answer to that is they didn't know how to book them. They didn't know how to book them in that Royal Rumble to advance their characters because there's no way, like you said, they shouldn't have been in there.
I think about some of the great moments. If you're talking top 10 moments, Kofi has 2 or 3 of them in Royal Rumble match history. And I also think about those 2 guys backstage because they're really good dudes and they're idea guys. They're 2 guys that are constantly trying to push the envelope, and they have for 10 years. Not everybody does that. And I can only imagine what they were like sitting there watching on the monitor as all the talent does going, what the hell? Well, what do we have to do? And then you got Tozawa coming out, and then he gets beaten down. So I Show Speed comes out there, and it's just, you know, it's a whole thing. So it's interesting. We do have one final super sticker comment. Ric Flair should enter the Elimination Chamber. Win number 18. No, he should not. Absolutely not. That was a $2 comment right there. All due respect. Oh my God. That's the thing. And we'll end it with this. I've really enjoyed the show today. I really have. Is that part of the reason I think it would be good for business. And I don't want to disrespect Ric Flair in any way, shape, or form. But he's kind of like Conor McGregor in this aspect. That Conor McGregor right now is out there promoting BKFC. He's trying to have a boxing match with Logan Paul for $250 million. And the UFC just said, nope. Why? Because he's promoting everything else other than who he's under contract for and who he made a lot of money with. Ric Flair was the same exact way, that he's just, wherever the money comes from, that's where I'm going to go. And so now I think that WWE, especially the new people from Endeavor and TKO, are like, who do we want to be that guy that has the most? Who do we want to be that guy to say he has the most? Would you rather have John Cena be the guy, or would you rather have Ric Flair be the guy?
That's a great point, Coach. That's a great point. Yep.
I set ringside, Vince, for what should have been his retirement match, and it was done beautifully.
Shawn Michaels?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I love you. Super kick, career over.
Yeah.
And then TNA happened, and then, and God bless Conrad for getting that other, the last one, which was really well done as well. But I think there's a lot of people there, and again, we're not there. Well, it's not going to change our lives any. But I think when you're talking about history, I think they would rather have John Cena, if I'm being honest. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
By the way, the last thing, you know who I got a text message from after the last show?
Who's that?
The Brooklyn Brawler. And he said, thank you for the kind words from Vince, and please tell him thank you. And
all right, hold on, Coach. You know who I got a phone call from after the last show?
The Brooklyn Brawler?
The Brooklyn Brawler. Coach, you want to know something funny? I'm going to tell you something funny, which is cool. See, this is why, Coach, I'm your wingman, Coach.
You damn right.
Coach, before this show, I did a live show on YouTube by myself.
Okay.
And I went off on, because I'm Steve Lombardi's biggest fan.
Uh-huh.
He called me because of that. We had done our show. He did not listen to he didn't hear our show. And I said, bro, you need to go back and listen to the coach put you over. I said, wow. Coach told stories about you. And bro, he hung up the phone and came back to listen to this show. And that's when he messaged you.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Guy, though. Bro, this is what I mean. Like, Coach, I know we got to wrap up and everything, but this is being a human being.
Yeah.
I'm on the conversation with Brawler, Lombardi. Coach, I'm feeling how much it would mean for this guy to go in the Hall of Fame. It would make his entire life. Bro, the dude would put it on his tombstone. It would make his life. And then we got Triple H going in there for a 27th time. And Steve actually told me in the phone call, this is what he told me. Vince, they tell me every year I'm on the list, Vince. I'm on the list. I know I'm on the list. You know, Coach, there comes a point, do the right freaking thing. Like, we're talking about human beings here. Do the right freaking thing, man.
And they've been doing that I left in my first time in 08 into 09. They were telling him that back then. Here's the problem, Vince. I say this all the time because people ask me, Coach, would you accept there's no building. And so it wouldn't take them much just to put him onto a list and induct him, because you're not making a bust for him. You're making him a ring, maybe. There's no building you walk into as the WWE Hall of Fame. So it wouldn't take much at all. It wouldn't take much at all. It would just take being nice. And I think that people have always looked at him as the guy who had the first match, the curtain jerker, the driver for Hulk Hogan. He is the reason, or one of the reasons, the business is what it is today. You can't have A-list stars all the time. You got to have the guys that are opening the shows.
And you don't have A-list guys without the Steve Lombardis putting them over and making 100%. Them look like $1 million. That is probably the most important. I say this all the time, and Steve Austin will tell you this, Coach. There would have been no Stone Cold Steve Austin without Savio Vega. I was there. I saw it. I saw what Savio Vega made Steve Austin looks like. Steve Austin knows that. Without those guys, there are no A-listers, Coach.
No doubt. No doubt. One final quick Brooklyn Brawler story. We got to get out of here. Remember I told you about the Stone Phillips story and how he liked to bring, So speaking of Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 1, he teamed up with Mr. T. So in I don't know what it was, 2003 or 4, WWE does a promotion with, you remember 1-800-COLLECT?
Of course.
And they had the Mr. T commercials, right? So we're in Charlotte, Greensboro, North Carolina. And we used to sneak behind the curtain to play cards. So it's me, Big Show, and 2 referees. And all of a sudden, Brawler comes running behind the curtain. Coach, you won't believe who's out in the hallway. That was kind of his gimmick when there was a celebrity there, right? And I go, Brawler. I was right in the middle of it. There's a lot of money on the line. And I go, Brawler, who? He goes, Mr. T. He's right outside. Okay, Brawler. Yeah. All right, bring Mr. T in here. I'll be damned, Vince. If about 10 seconds later, the curtain moves and Mr. T is standing right there. And he's like 5'7", much smaller than I anticipated. But we were dying laughing, and Big Show was like, I cannot believe this is happening right now. I said, this is his gimmick. This is what he loves to do.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Mr. T is in the Hall of Fame and not Steve Lombardi.
But Vince, that's a celebrity wing. That's not the same thing.
Exactly.
That's not the same thing.
Exactly.
Let's put a pin in it right there. We'll be back live on Thursday. Actually, Vince, you're going to have a different co-host because I'm calling golf this week. The Waste Management Phoenix Open on the PGA Tour. We can do everything. We've got skills. We're not in a box. So I'm calling golf. We'll figure out who's going to do the show with you on Thursday. But we also want to say thank you to Mando, our new presenting sponsor at shopmando.com. Use that code EXPLODES, and you get $5 off the equivalent.
See, Coach, now, if I think it's who it's going to be, how can I do my Mando sweaty ball pitch, Coach? Have you thought about that?
Well, that's a very interesting question.
Very interesting.
Let me think on that for a second. We may have to make a few changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but guys, like Coach said, because I cut him off, explodes, and you get this little kit that we showed you, and bro, it works. It's incredible.
It really is. And we're thrilled to have them on board with us. That's going to do it for now. We are live every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check us out on demand and all of our other content all in one place. Our BTT YouTube channel, which we just went over 15,000 subs last night. So thank you to all of you that are really supporting us across the board. We will see you tonight on Stadium with The Last Word. Me, Big Tommy C, Gabby, and of course Russo's rant will be a part of that as well. For now, that'll do it for Vince Russo, producer man. I'm the coach. We'll see you next time right here. There's only one Coach and Bro Show.